Okay, I'm not sure how many more are going to join. It's a small group. I hope you can hear me. So, hi, Almus. Nice to see you again. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. I know that this assignment date has been changed, and so now is only due a little bit after the initial due date, the 6th of October. But I'm just doing this national support session because I know the students working on their assignments, and I also think that you need to try and keep to your original schedule. Otherwise, you'll get a bit log jammed between this assignment and the next assignment and the exam and ICE tasks. So I really suggest, even if you don't submit it, put the work in according to our initial timeline would be my suggestion to you. So don't wait until the 6th of October is my suggestion. And if you want to submit, you can always resubmit if you think you've done something you want to change. Can you all hear me? Those that are here. Thanks, Jazz. Okay, perfect. All right, so the due date for this assignment is assignment 1, and the due date shifted to the 6th of October. Please just remember to get your assignment in well before 9 o'clock. Always just a word of caution, because we never know what's going to happen. Make sure that when you submit, you even take a screenshot of your submission so that you've got it for reference. And if any problems occur during your submission process, log a VC Assist ticket. Remember that Kath and I can't help. It's only VC Assist who can assist with that ticket. So please make sure that if by the 6th of October at 9 o'clock and you're having problems, you have got hold of VC Assist. Okay. Right, so you know the drill after having been through it the first semester. So this assignment is for 100 marks, and it will count for 25% of your final CAS mark. Remember our rules about copying from original sources. I must say that there's been a huge improvement in what you've been doing since the beginning of the year. So I think everyone's got the hang of that. But please remember, try and avoid putting everything in quotation marks, because no more than 10% of the assignment can consist of direct quotes. Okay, so those are the general guidelines on the front of the paper. The assignment instructions. So the assignment focuses on what we've had in this semester as learning units 1 and 2. So that is chapter 11 on human development and chapter 12 on personality. It's only those 2 chapters that this assignment focuses on. And remember, use APA referencing. There's the technical referencing rubric at the beginning of your paper with deductions. And now, bearing in mind we're in the 2nd semester, we are going to be very strict about the technical issues with referencing. So please make sure that you get that correct. There can be no excuses for poor referencing. And again, if you're unsure of your referencing, use the online Purdue Online Writing Lab website that's given to you as a link, as that is really helpful. What else does it say? The assignment should not exceed 6 to 7 standard type pages. The rubric will be adhered to, and the guidelines 1.5 centimeter standard page line spacing, margins, and the font Calibri 11. Okay, all very standard. So what I've done on the assignment here, I've put it onto a PowerPoint, and I've put the question, but I've also linked the rubric to the question so that we can very carefully just make sure we look at the rubric. It's really important you look at that rubric carefully when you've finished answering your question, or even before, to guide you in what is required. And I've put it shouldn't exceed 7 pages. So if you want to write less, that's okay if you feel that you've included enough to be sufficient in your answer, but it just is guiding you that with these questions, it really shouldn't be longer than 7 pages. Okay, question 1, I've put little stars on the important points that we just need to note. So question 1 gives you quite a lengthy case study which you need to read. So I've said that read it. It's really important you read the case study from beginning to end. Read it once, read it twice, because you're going to have to make reference to the case study in your answer. Okay, so the first question is based on prenatal development, and it's based upon those risk factors that impact on prenatal development. So read the case study, and what it's asking you to do is Discuss 5 different categories of influences on prenatal development that could possibly affect that particular person in the case study's unborn baby. And it gives you one example. For example, the influence of culture and family. So don't use influence of culture and family. It says provide 5 others. And the important part is to discuss them in relation to the case study. So if you've got one of those risk factors, you need to go to the case study and you need to find in the case study where that risk factor is relevant and refer that risk factor back to the case study. It says do not write in point form. In fact, it even says that we have to deduct 5 marks if written in point form. So that's bullet points. Okay, so don't write it in point form. So the marks allocated for this, it's a big chunk of marks and it's 30 marks, okay? And you need to have provided, firstly, a detailed explanation of the influences on prenatal development in your own words, which means you need to paraphrase, and how prenatal development, how those influences could possibly affect the unborn baby. So there's 5 influences, and it's giving you 6 marks per influence. So that those marks would probably be broken down to naming the correct influence, being able to give a description of that influence, and refer it back to the case study. So each one of those influences is worth 6 marks. And you need to make sure you reference it back to the case study and do not write in point form. Okay, you can write in paragraph form, but not in point form. So each one of those 6 marks is probably a nice size paragraph. Okay, enough to be able to describe the influence and give the link back to the case study. So very important that you provide that link. Otherwise, you won't get good or excellent marks. Okay, quite a straightforward question, not a difficult question at all. The second question, question 1.2, we had one like this in the first semester, okay? And what it's telling you to do, it's doing the same thing where we need to find errors in the reference that's provided. But what they've said to you, and be very careful, is it says assume. So regardless of where this reference is coming from, it might be coming from a journal article. For the instance of this question, you assume that it's taken from an online blog called Psychology Today. And it asks you to identify at least 10 errors that go against APA 7th edition referencing style for blogs. So when you research this question, you're going to research referencing style for online blogs. That's what you need to do. You've got all your referencing sources. It's the same way we did it in the first semester, where you can list it in point form. You need to identify what those errors are. 10 errors identified, 1 mark each. So look at it very carefully, okay? And look at it as an online blog. That is what it's asking you to check it as a reference against, as an online blog from something called Psychology Today. Okay, it's not a journal article, it's not a book, it's an online blog. That's what that reference is assumed to be for this question. Okay. I haven't checked, Jazz, but I'm assuming there'll be a few more than 10. So 10 is definitely the minimum. 10 is 10 marks. So if you want to put 12 and risk, that you might have 2 wrong, that's also fine. If you can find more than 10, then put them down. I haven't checked it myself, but minimum 10. Okay. That's what we need to do, and we're familiar with that type of question. This question is a little bit tricky because it's not a big section in the work that we've done, is the section on language. So it comes from the development section, and it's asking you, and I've put stars there, to provide an overview together with relevant examples from your own culture, explaining how language develops in childhood. It's very specifically saying to you, conduct your own research. So obviously there's going to be marks for having conducted research and referencing it correctly. So conduct your own research and give specific examples of producing words, using words, and combining words in your culture. Okay, it's a little challenging, this question. It really does require you to do some research. and be able to apply what you learn in the research to examples from your culture. So the way the marks are broken down, it's 20 marks, and it's sort of broken down into 2 different sections of 10. So the first one is that you can actually provide an overview of language development and learning to communicate. That's 10 marks for that. And then there's 10 marks for application. So that's where you need to have relevant examples from your culture, explaining how language is developed from producing words, using words, and combining words. It gives you an example of what you could include, and it's asking you need to do at least 2 relevant examples for excellent or good. Okay, so in order to get excellent and good, you need to have at least 2 examples. So break it down into the 2 different 10-mark sections. One is the overview, which is quite straightforward, but you need to do research. And the second one is being able to apply it. So this is going to test your research skills, and we need to see the research included and referenced in this. Question 2.2 again is 20 marks, but it's not a challenging question. So it goes to Erik Erikson, and that's also in the developmental psychology chapter. And he's got his stages. His lifespan is categorized into those 8 stages. But it just says to you the first 4 stages. So it's not all 8, it's not the last 4, it's not a random 4, it's the first 4 stages of childhood development. So it gives you the structure of the table that you need to draw up, and it says to you if you want to turn your page sideways, you can. Is that you need to create a table like the one below, and each block is worth 1 mark. So you have to identify the stage number and give the name of the stage. You have to give an overview of the stage, okay? And remember, regardless of whether it's in a table or not, you need to have in-text referencing. You need to then come up with a challenge of that particular stage and a success of that stage. So we mark it according to the rubric that's provided here. So make sure that you get all your 4 stages named correctly. That's very easy. That's 4 easy marks. That you give an overview of each stage in your own words, preferably, but with a citation, and that for each one you identify a challenge and success. I think it's to your advantage not to quote a challenge or success that's straight out of the textbook, but rather be able to interpret what's in the textbook and come up with your own example of a challenge and a success in those cases. Okay, it's not a difficult question, but it just means that you need to understand it and being able to apply the challenges and success. So that question's not too difficult, and it should be quite straightforward. Last question is again broken into sort of 2 10-mark areas. So it's 20 marks, and it's now in the section on personality, and it's talking about that 5-factor model of personality traits. So what it first asks you to do is to be able to explain and describe the 5-factor model. So what is it? It's worth 10 marks. So if you gauge that down, you know it's sort of maybe 2 marks per factor, but remember to reference and cite and do additional research as necessary. Secondly, you have to take the personality test. So you need to click on that link, which will take you to a personality test. And when you've taken that test, it'll give you a result. And what you need to do is take a screenshot of that result and attach it to your assignment, okay, so that we can see that you've done it. That's what that is for. It says that we have to minus 5 out of the 10 marks if the screenshot is not attached. So make sure you take the screenshot. But once you've got it, the bulk of the mark, or the mark is actually about you being able to reflect. So to look at it in a personal way, and then explain whichever character trait you score the highest in based on the feedback that came from the test. You're either going to agree or disagree with the outcome. So if it ranks you high on something and you say, well, actually, I don't think that I'm that, you need to then disagree, but you need to substantiate why you would disagree. So that would be something like examples from your own life that show that you know, that I'm not that trait, I'm something different. So it's a personal thing, it's a reflective thing, and you need to disagree or agree with the outcome and substantiate your response. So that 10 marks requires quite a little bit of writing. It's like 2 paragraphs or so, really reflecting on the answer. So don't just say, I scored this and I disagree, and just give me a statement. You need to reflect a little bit on the answer. Okay, and don't forget to attach the results. No, it'll be attached as it should just attach it as a JPEG. So just save it as a JPEG and attach it as a separate document. What you could also do if you want to is just take insert the JPEG into your document as well. That's also a fine way to do it, as long as it's there and it's visible to me. So you could cut and paste or take a screenshot and copy it into your Word document, but as long as the evidence is there, that you've done it. I'm not sure when you do it, if it lets you download it as a PDF. You could cut and paste it and put it in a separate attachment, or I don't mind if you cut and paste it at the end of your assignment after you've done the referencing. Just pop it in the end there. As long as we've got the evidence, that's the most important thing. Okay, so it's, yeah, guys, that's really it. It's not a difficult assignment. You can in the first, and you can, because it's a personal question, Lorato. So you can, it is about you, and it can say that I feel that, as long as you can substantiate it, because you're talking from your own personal experience. Yeah, question 2.3, actually one of our ICE tasks is one of my ICE tasks for my groups is very similar. So if you've done the ICE task, you might have already got some of this stuff down, and the reflective practice. But yeah, guys, it's not difficult. Give yourself some time. My ICE tasks are due. There is no set date for the ICE tasks. We're waiting to be told when the CAS marks are due. And so I just say, please keep up to date with the ICE tasks. Lots of my students are trying to keep up to date, and I mark them as I go. But again, you're going to end up very congested in October and into November if you don't keep up to date with the ICE tasks. So really, the responsibility is on you. I will give you the due date. It'll be before the exam and enough time for me to mark them. So probably towards the end of October, I should think. But there's only 4 ICE tasks, and we've already sort of started on learning unit 3, so we should sort of be up to date. And if you go and do those ICE tasks, there's a couple of them that link a little bit to the assignment, so they can also help you. Okay, I'm not sure about Kath, but I'm sure she'll communicate with her group. All right, so that's it. It's very straightforward. I'd under your belt if I was you. You don't have to submit, but at least you know you've done it and you can put it to one side. If you've got any questions, please, you're welcome to email me. Again, use referencing throughout, do additional research throughout, just because to make sure that you're not penalized for not doing research where you should possibly have done research. So just make sure you do the research. And yeah, good luck, guys. Are there any other questions? It's a short collab because it is just the national support session. We covered the material, so just to give you some guidance. And I'll put up the recording tomorrow along with the slides. So you can share it if people weren't here. I see quite a few people weren't here, but the recording will be there. All right, guys. Good luck. See you in a couple of weeks. Our next collab session. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.